The werewolf walks up in between these two fields. And he's in his actual humanoid wolf form. He's not coming before you as a man. If I could get my... Okay. He calls out. So I'm come on behalf of the remaining Keltostravi. And when he speaks, as he calls out, you can hear the difference in his voice. He sounds more beast than man, but his words are discernible, and he's speaking Darkonese.
Mm-hmm.
Remaining is right. Victor will kind of whisper to Evie.
He says, I am Arcadius. With whom do I parley?
I am Evelyn Veritas, the Duchess of this land.
Your house is not known to me.
We come from far away.
You have slain many of the Keltostravi. Many people of the adjoining clans to mine own.
We were left little choice in this matter.
Do you still have some of their remains out on display? Heads on.
I think we got rid of that already.
No, we
all
got
of
rid of
them
all that.
yesterday.
Okay. And you have slain two of the great ones.
The Loup-Garou, I believe they are called in your tongue.
He's standing very proudly. Back straight, shoulders. There's no arch to his movement, but you see he kind of reshuffles his weight. He calls back in the Vistani tongue, yes. 8 clans there were. A strong message House Veritas has sent, for 8 clans have fled. I am come to represent the 9th.
Speak.
Says, this is a great dishonor amongst my people to become old. To die in battle is glorious and honorable. So when men of my clan become gray, and he motions to his own features, and you can see he is starting to go gray. And the fur on his chin and his upper chest. When men are deemed useless, they are sent out. They are sent to me, to the 9th clan, to find what little dignity and honor can be found outside of battle.
So are you coming here because you want to die or because you want to make peace and live out the rest of your gray-haired lives?
He says, I am not a fool. The 8 clans have retreated into the mists rather than face the strength of House Veritas. But my people will not survive a winter in unknown lands.
Victor will lean over to Evie and tell her to play nice. These could be friendly for a change.
Those of your clan, the 9th clan, are those who have no longer feel the need to prove themselves through battle. They seek to prove themselves through other ways.
He tells you that his men are old or frail or broken in body. They are not fighters, and they cannot pose much of a threat, considering your house has slain 2 of the... And he repeats the Vistani word, the Loup Garou.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I am come to negotiate on their behalf, to find what mercy and grace can be found here. Should I be expectant of any?
The other 8 clans were put to flight because they would not live as men do. They met us on the field with violence. They demanded sacrifices of us. If your people will live as men do, if they will live in peace, they will find dignity in work instead of bloodshed, I believe we can find a place for you here.
He shakes his head. He says, we will not fight for you, nor will we work for you. And he looks out to the fields. We do not plow. We do not grow things. We will live as we always have. But I can negotiate terms of fealty, though they are not unconditional.
I'm listening.
He says that he's told you that his men are not fighters.
Mm-hmm.
And he's told you that his men also pose no threat. What he's saying is that the men of his clan are the least of the Keltostrabi, and you have functionally eradicated one of the clans, and then you've slain 2 of their fiercest warriors in battle. Enough that the rest of them have ceded the region to you.
Mm-hmm.
He tells you that what they can offer is he is willing to pledge fealty to the Duchess Veritas and to her Azalin King if you would grant them safe passage and safe hunting through the woods where they've always lived.
Sounds good to me.
Ekon's gonna, I guess I'm away from the rest of the group. Ekon is going to kind of lean over into Evie and whisper, you should probably make them do some sort of symbolic tribute, like give us a heart once a season or something, just to make sure that we remain on good terms, and also that we can keep track of them. Otherwise, that sounds great.
Yeah, I was gonna... They would have to offer some kind of something to us, though. What that could be negotiated. So, like, we can, if it's all right with him, we'll confer with ourselves for just a moment.
So you're telling him that he would have to offer some sort of tribute?
I'm going to tell him that I'm going to confer with my family for a moment.
He nods. He crosses his arms, but he does not take his eyes off any of you.
Mm-hmm. Well, we could speak in Ferniscan. Like,
Yeah.
Well, you can just speak in normal. As long as you're not calling out to him, he's standing a good 30 feet away.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so...
Oh, wolves have good ears, so yeah, we can just speak for this.
Yeah, as long as... If they're going to play nice and not attack us and we'll share this land amicably, I'm okay with that. But if I'm the lord of this land, then they have to offer some kind of tribute so that... Sorry, Genie. So that they... I mean, it's a requirement. I can't let them live here for free while I'm taxing our people.
Have them give us a buck or something then.
Yeah,
Something
like once a season or once a year, just deliver a heart as tribute.
No, not a hard, an entire buck so that our food supplies will get filled.
Yeah, I mean, is that enough? I don't know if one a season is enough. One a moon.
I think the main value is making it symbolic.
Yeah.
In particular, I think the main value is making sure the peasants see that happening, so that they know that we're calling the shots.
Yeah.
Yes, they should give us something the peasants can actually use. A single heart is not going to be any good to Dennis up there fixing fences.
I mean, they don't really have anything to give except meat.
I mean, I think. Yeah,
Now, to be clear, when you say the heart, you don't mean the heart from an animal. You mean like a red deer.
Yeah.
H-A-R-T, heart. Okay.
Yes.
Like, I don't know that one of those a season, that doesn't amount to much for a whole village.
They
I
just
mean,
want to be left alone, Evie. Let's just leave them alone.
I mean, the other thing to consider here is Evie will be their feudal lord. She will have a responsibility to bear arms against their enemies if they're attacked.
Ask them to watch.
They're not getting nothing.
Ask them if they'll patrol the woods and report invaders. Not engage. Report.
Yeah,
Like they don't. We're not asking. We'll make it clear they're not asking to fight.
Mhm.
Just
ask them what they know about these bites when we're done negotiating. And Victor will point to his chest.
all right.
I mean-
We'll ask. We'll put that on the list. We could ask for lore on the cure for their bites.
Tell them we would like to share cultural knowledge and information, and we will leave them alone and not
No.
them and let them hunt. But they need to define where their territory is.
Well, I can define where their territory is, but he's saying that they have a certain territory that they say already belongs to them, and that's where they want to hunt.
Yes,
Yeah.
they don't want you to dictate where they're going to hunt. As long as it's not massive range that will greatly interfere with our ability to feed.
Yeah, I mean,
Again, I would just again emphasize, just make sure that there's something symbolic that they're doing as vassals so that the villagers know who's calling the shots, so they can actually see it.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so they want hunting rights on our land. I think that's pretty typical. There's always common land where everyone's allowed to hunt. I don't see a problem with that.
I think we should let them hunt on the not common land. First of all, we should find out what land they want to hunt on, and if it's the common land, we should let them hunt on the what is the term, Brick Road, for like the Lord's land that little commoners are not allowed to hunt on? That. So that they're not
So typically,
scaring the peasantry.
the animals in woodland territories would be considered the property of whatever lord is responsible for that territory. So it would not be legal for one of your men to go out in the woods and kill a deer and drag it home just for himself. He'd be poaching.
Right. Unless we declare it common land.
But there are so many resources that if there are actually good animals and good hunting in the woods, chances of you declaring that common land are pretty low.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Like there's a good reason why kings and lords kept a lid on that sort of thing. Otherwise, they would be exploited and drained of resources very quickly.
I think we should tell them stay away from the peasantry, mostly for the peasantry's not really, mostly for their safety, to be honest. Stay away from just avoid the peasantry. I also like saying the word peasantry. It's a good word.
Peasant Kingdom of Peasantry. I'm sorry, I couldn't hold it in. I couldn't. I'm sorry.
Did you get the references out?
So you report
Yeah.
back to him.
Okay, so we want to what 1 heart a season? Is that enough?
Right. I would say at the start of winter, they bring us the biggest like stag they can find. Is a heart is it just like
Heart is a
red
male deer.
Yeah, just the biggest heart they can find, and then have them patrol the woods and report invaders, and that's it. I think having werewolf scouts in the woods, even if they're not going to defend the woods, even if they just escape and report back, I think is a huge thing.
Yes, and tell them that we will be coming to map out their territory formally.
Okay,
All right, so
what is
I'll
the
step
response?
forward.
You step forward.
Okay, so I'll say, where do you consider your territory to begin and end?
He tells you that his tribe was on the weakest and poorest lands of the Celtostravi. One of his requirements for fealty would be that you give him leave to move his people to one of the richer tribe sites now abandoned by his betters.
And is there basically a territory within that's not within like the sphere of influence of any of the abandoned villages where they could live and they wouldn't cross paths with anyone?
I mean, the problem with your territory is it's fairly large. There's a lot of wilderness, but it's not so large that you could really guarantee that anyone wouldn't cross paths with anyone else.
Okay, well,
Like you're not going to be able to put them in like a little corner far away from it because they're already there. They don't want to remain there.
Mm-hmm.
They want better lands.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I'm okay with that as long as we could find a spot where they're not like too close to any of the villages.
Like we basically have 3 main villages we want to populate. This one, the wine one, and there's one other one, right?
Correct.
So,
but none of the Celtostravi sites would be more than a couple days travel from any of those villages. Like
right,
you guys are kind of packed in this little woodland valley.
I think a couple days is probably far enough.
I mean, also, Evie, you're the one in charge of where people populate the villages. So
Right.
if you put them near one of the abandoned villages that doesn't have anything we care about, you can just tell people they can't settle there.
why don't we give them one of the villages?
They don't seem to want that. They want their own land.
No, they want to take one of the Celtostravi sites that had recently been abandoned.
Yeah, it's fine. We can whatever territory they want, we can declare that as King's land, and peasants are just not allowed to go there.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I think that's okay.
So that's reasonable?
Yeah, I will allow that.
The second thing that he asks, because he is aware that the woods have come under your ownership, that your Azalin king has given you written words that declare the land to be within your purview.
Mm-hmm.
But my tribe would need assurances that we can take what meat and resources from the woods as we always have, without fear of retribution.
If you would live lawfully in this land as my subjects, I have no quarrel.
So what he's saying is whatever laws you eventually impose on how other people are allowed to hunt in your woods, they would remain exempt from them.
Do you have any customs that would cause harm, or is there any reason why that wouldn't be okay? I mean, I'm kind of asking this to you. I'm not asking him.
You have to reword the question. I'm not sure I understand what
He wants to know, like, if the resources they're going to take would be harmful. Like, what kind of resources are they wanting to take besides?
They're going to hunt animals for food and
right.
fur.
Yeah, I mean, I already said that's fine.
Okay.
Ask and I'm gonna like ask for the other stuff we want.
Yeah, I'll ask.
Well, he's got one more
Mm-hmm.
on the list. He tells you that it's his understanding that through magical or cultural means, that men, when they settle villages, have the knowledge to bind various types of woodland creatures to their service. And he motions towards the ox that are currently working in the fields. He says, of the creatures of the woods, you may take dominion of all but the wolves.
So the wolves are the wolves belong to you. I mean, I don't think we were planning to cultivate wolves.
He nods.
You will keep the wolves from harassing our own flocks, I trust.
Make an insight check.
That is a 16.
As you're talking, you can see that his gaze continually drifts away from you. And sometimes you think it's like he's just trying to get a measure of your companions beside you. But you realize, partway into the conversation, after you've heard his 3 conditions, he's looking for the wolf's head put out on a spike. He's scanning and looking for it. And obviously it's not there because you've taken it down and burned it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know why he would be looking. I don't know what his preoccupation with that would be.
So you're granting him all 3 of his requests?
If he's going to have dominion over the wolves, I expect that the wolves will be kept in check.
He shakes his head and says, I can offer you no such assurances. Wolves are wolves. They will do what they do. Wolves are known to attack men. This is their natural state of being.
And men are known to defend themselves from wolves. Is this acceptable to you if they invade our territory?
He nods.
Okay.
Ask him, and I'll be like, get the concessions, like the
Yeah, okay.
things we want.
Uh-huh.
Like, what are
Yeah.
you giving him? Everything he
No.
wants.
Okay. I'm getting to it. I'm getting to it. Yeah. I also have some terms.
He nods.
You will allow our people free passage through your territory without harassment, so long as they do not harass you.
No, my apologies. I was given to understand that it was always your territory. It has been granted you by your Azalin king.
Don't call it their territory.
Is this not the state of fealty?
It is, but I just want to be clear of the terms. You are being granted to use of certain lands, but you will not object when our people enter these lands, correct?
And he says that he should have no cause to object.
Okay. Should I call on you asking for information about the woodlands or any information you may have, anything unusual or interesting that you see in your territory? If I ask for something, I expect to be given reports. And if you see something that you believe should be brought to my attention, I would expect you to do so.
He says that, in particular, they would know quite a lot about the other Keltostravi clans. That if they were to re-emerge from the mists, they would be first to know.
Okay, that's useful. If any other interlopers were to enter through the mist, would you also be the first to notice?
Should my men see them, they will report.
Finally, we shall require something to demonstrate to the people your fealty. I shall require 1 heart per season for you to present to us.
And we're making sure that he understands we want a deer, not an actual heart.
He rips open its chest. He's like, "Take mine."
Yeah, no, a stag. I guess I should say a stag. That's a little less ambiguous. And this will be presented to us once a season. At a schedule that we will work out.
Probably just to start of winter, I think. Isn't that typically when you hunt deer?
Well, we want one a season, not just once a year.
So 4 every year. At
Yeah.
the beginning of each season. Okay. He nods and he tells you that these terms are agreeable.
Everybody okay with all that?
Yeah.
My chest.
You're the Duchess.
Yeah. So I believe we can live in peace. I would have some other questions for you about the maladies that werewolves can inflict upon our people, as several of my people have been injured by werewolves of late.
He steps forward and he goes down to his knee, his right knee, and bows his head down, tilts his head one direction, reaches up with one of his claws, and fans the fur away from the side of his neck, bearing the flesh underneath. This is Arcadius of the Keltostravi. Pledges fealty to House Veritas. Do what you will with me.
Evelyn Veritas of House Veritas, accept your fealty, Arcadius. Rise.
And when he rises back to his feet, I mean, you can tell that he's pushing through physical pain of some kind. But he stands proud in front of you nonetheless. Regretfully, though, he doesn't have a lot of information on how to cure these maladies that are befalling your subjects. The Keltostravi never really had much use for that information.
Does he know how long it usually takes for the Luke-Garou bites to kill somebody?
He shakes his head and says it's been many, many years since he has heard of a man who fought against the Loop Guru and suffered such a bite, but didn't die immediately from the effects. Usually it's the mauling that kills them, is what he's saying.
You're welcome.
Hear that, guys? I'm special.
So he calls out, "Then I have your leave to go, and report what has occurred here to the other men of my tribe."
Yes, you may move them to a location that you find better suited among the Keltostravi lands.
Once you have moved, please inform us of your location so that we can tell our people to stay away.
And we can simplify that. We'll just say that he sets himself up in the location you guys have already explored.
Okay.
Like, he just takes over that place we conveniently have maps for in case we need them down the road.
Oh, there is one more thing. Should you have need to approach our village, we would appreciate it if you would come in your human form.
This is a command from the Duchess.
It is.
He nods and he looks out over the village. He says that he doesn't imagine he will ever have cause to approach much closer than this.
Evie nods. She understands.
Unless anybody has anything else for Arcadia's.
I hope that we will have no further conflicts between our peoples.
He's agreeable to that as well. He hasn't seen firsthand, but he's heard what conflict with your people has wrought amongst them.
Yeah, we're basically 3 for 0.
Arcadius, I do have one last question before you take your leave. Why do the other clans want virgins?
He thinks about it for a moment. And he says that there are religious mating rituals. But he assures you that the men of his clan are too old. That none of them are looking to mate or to proliferate more werewolves in the area. This is not something that they're going to have requirements for going forward.
Is his clan all male?
Yes.
What will happen to your clan if you no longer have the other clans in the area to send their injured to over time? Will you just fade? Will one day we no longer have allies?
He stands very upright and looks at Ekon. "Shall I speak freely, sir?"
By all means.
"Your village will die. These buildings will crumble again. Perhaps it will burn, perhaps it will be plague, perhaps invaders, perhaps monsters from the woods, stronger even than the Keltostravi. This will happen before the last man of my tribe falls ill. Someday the rest of my people will retake these lands, and the memory of you will fade just as quickly."
No, I got a nod though. That's internally consistent.
And when he's saying this to you, you don't get the sense at all that like he's upset about that situation.
Yeah. There's no. Ekon likewise has no real malice. That's the way he sees the world. So
his people have been here for 1,000 years. Your people have been here for 8 minutes. Then Arcadius leaves to give these terms of fealty to his people. You do learn that there are 14 members of his tribe, all old men or men that have suffered injury at some point. Basically, anybody who would have been an outcast in one of the other tribes would have been sent to Arcadius. And he sets up his people in the camp that you guys had already visited. So that was I think that was like 2 or 3 days
Yeah, it wasn't far.
away. And then slowly but surely, people begin emerging out from the long hall. What explanation do you give to the other people of the village about what has occurred here?
I will tell them that The wolves have fled, save for their oldest, who we have negotiated terms with.
We didn't negotiate terms. They swore fealty.
And they have agreed to swear fealty to your Duchess.
And you believe them, calls out one of the workmen.
Yes, because they know the consequences of disobeying.
And there's some tittering amongst the crowd and some laughter. And the same man who just heckled you calls back, "Fair enough."
I think tonight calls for a celebration, men.
They've also made it a policy to provide us with tribute, so as to make it sure that they know who's in charge of this relationship. For everyone watching.
9 clans there were. 8 have fled at hearing the name House Veritas.
I mean, you need a little more than say your name to them.
Okay, they have felt our fire, they have felt our steel.
They felt our sudden and intense violence.
One of you just picked up and floated him away.
Listen, levitate is the secret best crowd control spell in the game. If you got a single big target.
So listen, one of their leaders came up to us like he was going to tell us what to do. So what happened is that we pulled down his pants, punched him in the balls, set him on fire, and killed him.
And then we ripped out his rings.
I mean, history is written by the victors, so I'm not going to argue with any of that.
I mean, it is objectively what happened.
He wasn't a leader. He was
Malcontent.
just kind of a punk.
So
Okay,
spirits
listen,
seem to be pretty high in the village today. The idea that the Celtostravi clans have vanished into the mists rather than remain in conflict with you. Suddenly everybody's got stories about their family history with the Celtostravi or conflicts in the past that have been righted now. People are claiming to have fought in the battle that you all knew were definitely not there. Ekon, at one point in the day, you're approached by one of the young tradesmen, not one of the teamsters that came with you from Castle Avernus, but one of the travelers that kind of glommed onto your train as you were traveling to the village. And so kind of timidly, he asks you if but there are some amongst the men who would like to offer tribute to Air for offering protection of the village during the Celtostravi attack. But none of them know what that proper tribute might look like.
Yeah, and I'll see if I can arrange a ritual burning of incense or whatever.
Okay.
Is there any live sacrifices in the traditional, killing a bird or anything, or deer or anything?
Doing live sacrifices.
Not
we
for-
already told the wolves we're not doing that.
Maybe in ancient
Yeah, I'm
times.
just asking for reference.
Okay.
Not in modern practice. Of
Not
the
in modern
religion.
times. Yeah, no, I'll explain how to burn. Yes, I will try and make arrangements to get some fine incense to be burned and prayers to be spoken or whatever.
No burnt offerings for us.
Having said that, though, whatever ritual you're leading them through, more people every time you have one of these congregations seem to show up. And there are a lot of questions about, should we be draining a pig's, the blood from a pig into a fire pit or something, or one of these barbaric practices that you would associate with unseelie paganistic followers. But you can tell that's more kind of the ritual that they're used to, is the fire and brimstone
And Ekon's
slaughter.
response to this is always, no, the pig would better be served in your stomachs, and Air is always much happier with your words than any such material offerings.
Make a charisma religion check.
You got it.
Oh, Destil.
That's a let's see, so proficiency.
Oh, Destil.
Rolling dice.
Gotta count all those numbers.
I just have to. Okay, so my proficiency is +3 right now, right? Yeah. So That puts it at +1, so that's a 3.
A 3. So here's the difficulty that you're seeing now. You were brought up and you received Aethar training in a society and amongst a people that had all basically been taught the same rituals, the same prayers. You have a greater understanding of them because your training has been very formal. These are people who, some of them over their lifetimes, might jump from one god to another, depending on whichever cult is in the area offering boons that day or that week. You're really having to do a lot of laying of the groundwork that you have not been trained to do. And you find yourself having to fall back on the strength of your personality to deliver that information. And it's just... when you can't just go by the books like you're so used to.
Yeah. Brick, from now on, I'm not marking off a spell slot every day for enhance ability charisma during prayer, during mass.
They seem receptive to the learning, but like you're really going to have to go back to the drawing board and kind of build from the ground up.
Yeah.
What's more going to be more effective for these people in specific, rather than just going through the motions of what you were taught.
And Evie will, after the prayer is over, Evie would like to actually approach Ekon. Ekon, is it your intention to proselytize?
No, people are free to worship however they want, assuming that's, again, you are the Duchess, but I don't see any reason not to provide heir's grace to those who seek it.
I believe this land could do with a little more light. But I must ask, does your loyalty lie first with Heir or with House Veritas?
Oh, cousin, you know that those are not in conflict. Heir provides for the houses, and the houses provide for Heir. You've gone to all the same services that I have.
That's a good answer. It's the only answer I would have respected. If you had said one or the other, I probably would have gotten mad.
Yeah, I know.
No, I don't see any issue. If these people, they seem eager for this sort of thing. They don't seem to have something like this in their life, and it could really do some good for them.
I mean, I'll just remind you that I call Heir's fire through my house relic, as would any Aethar.
So,
Yes, what I'm worried about is Kristen, who went off on his own, may have the same idea you do and spread his idea of what Heir's fire looks like to other people. The more I think about it, the more I regret letting him leave without a fight.
I mean, Kristen was misguided, but in the end, he was loyal to the church, at least, if not the nation. You're right, it might come to outright conflict. It's not like we haven't fought them before.
I'm sure the Endolines think they were being loyal to Heir when they threw meteors on Brennanine.
You're not wrong.
we'll never know now.
So Jeannie is resigned to just living out the rest of her life in Darkon. She's assuming you'll never get back home.
I mean, I'm gonna look, but it's like, I mean, at this point, like, I'm not discounting the fact that we'll never get home, but I don't think we're gonna get home soon.
I feel like Jeannie regards like finding a route back home from Darkon the same way as like when I check my fridge for the 8th time over the course of a morning.
Maybe something materialized.
Yeah, basically, it's like, yeah, we'll probably get there eventually, maybe, but like, you know, if we get back in 20 or 30 years, we're probably not going to know like what the motivations of like that invading army were, because that's basically like a generation, you know, and the victors right, whatever, they're gonna just say whatever the hell they want to say, whoever wins that conflict. So
some more news that you receive. Most of your fields were burned. Mm-hmm. Most of the crops. Some of it was able to be salvaged, and talking to Demetrius about it, he reports that the farmers think if the weather holds and like you don't get a disastrous early blizzard or something, you'll probably be able to do one good harvest before winter sets in. But it's going to be a close thing. You all were expecting to have that first month or so run up. And that leads to a piece of arbitration that you guys are going to have to deal with. There's a conflict amongst the men. A man named Gaspana.
Good name.
The complaint against him, this is Demetrius telling you this, the complaint against him is that he is growing in one of the dilapidated houses that he intends to fix up for himself and for a future wife when he brings his wife and child out to the village. But in the house, and kind of in secret, he has planted tobacco underneath the floorboards in a place that gets a little bit of sun. The conflict is that as far as like the Teamsters and the other people of the village are concerned, he's not able to account for where the seeds for those plants came from. And they think it might have come from the seed banks that you brought from Castle Avernus. If it did, he doesn't own that tobacco. He insists that it was his all along, that he's going to grow it, and when he's able to harvest it, he's going to use the profit to buy this plot of land that this house sits on, and then have enough money to bring his wife and child to the village.
What is... Destil, what's the description? What is the exact wording on Zone of Truth? Like, do you know if somebody fails or passes?
So. I'm pretty sure you know if someone fails.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know if someone passes the save.
Okay, well then that's the
You know
solution.
whether each creature succeeds or fails on its saving throw.
Yeah, that was going to be what I was going to say to do.
Yeah, get him in the church, stand him before air, and have him answer yes or no.
Are any of you
Basically-
trained in both insight and religion simultaneously?
I am.
Ekon, make me an insight check.
You got it. So 17.
You've been kind of keeping track of who's coming to your sermons, and you know for a fact like who was with you earlier in the day when you were leading them in prayer. Gaspana has never been amongst them, and when he's told we're going to need you to come into the church and stand before air, he agrees immediately, and you can tell that he gives air no respect whatsoever. He could lie before air. He wouldn't have any difficulty with it at all. So yeah, he agrees immediately.
Can you tell him to not resist the spell, and if he does, then we will assume guilt.
We have to do this tomorrow though, because I don't have a Zone of Truth today.
Yeah.
We can say this takes place the next day. We don't have to be.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
Yep, that's fine.
So,
Oh wait, no. Yeah.
as this is happening, people are watching, and you guys realize that the precedent you set now is going to kind of be their expectation going forward. If this is how you choose to arbitrate this decision, this is how your villagers are going to kind of expect future arbitrations to also be handled.
I mean, Zone of Truth seems like a pretty good way to arbitrate.
The one thing I would suggest, Your Grace, is to make sure that it's clear that we do these on a schedule with time ahead of time. I can't just be casting a Zone of Truth every day someone has an argument. Like, this should be you are formally holding court or something along those lines.
I think you should do. Yeah, that was actually
Also,
something
since eventually you're going to have a Zone of Truth once you level up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was actually something I was going to bring up. I think that as the Duchess, you should, when we get settled, set aside a day once every X number of days to do arbitration and hold court and allow
I mean, something like that. That sounds like something that nobles do. They would set up a day like we're going to hear all the grievances and we're going to resolve all the disputes.
And something about like cutting babies in half. I don't know.
Well, I hope it doesn't come to that. Also, should people be calling me Your Grace? Is that what I should be called?
I don't know.
I don't know what the actual correct form of address for a duchess would be.
If that's not it, Ekon is mostly joking. He was the one who gave you the title of Duchess.
I mean, like, does "Hey You" work?
Your rubiness.
Hey, not Ruby.
Evie walks over and punches Victor square in the jaw.
Evie doesn't punch; she stabs.
Your Grace, the High Ruby of Veritas.
Don't stab him. His wounds are not knitting.
When you think about it, that's really his problem.
So how do you dress the situation up? Like, are we just going boilerplate? Like, hey, we're going to cast Zone of Truth, don't resist? Or are you going to make it more formal than that?
I mean, we could put a certain amount of the people seem to be responding to air, so I think a certain amount of, I guess you would call it pomp and circumstance. Make it
I
look
mean, it has verbal and somatic components, so it's going to be a big production of casting it.
Yeah, just make it like in the future we could do it like a formal request of error to shine the truth or something.
Oh yeah, but I'll make it clear. This happens when I say it happens.
We could always institute something like, if you're caught lying to air, we send you to live with the werewolves.
If you get caught lying with me, you're probably out of the village.
I mean,
Yeah, so he gets to make a DC 15 Wisdom saving throw.
But if he can choose not to resist, which I recommend that he does.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's a Charisma saving throw.
Okay. Ekon, you're the one administering the spell, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Give me either a persuasion or performance check, depending on how you're going to go about getting this guy to agree to not pass the spell.
Have an enhance ability charisma from Genie.
Okay. I mean, I already had one for this is going to be part of the mask, but yep. So those are both the same, and they're both terrible, and the enhanced ability didn't do anything. I guess I would have also put a guidance on this because I'm not concentrating on anything else.
That's why I did that. Destil!
Yeah, I know. So that's a performance of 5.
So by performance, I'm assuming you're folding in the request to not resist the spell into the kind of ritual of the ceremony. Okay.
Which gives me a grand total of 4 if that's charisma based, which I'm assuming it is.
Grand total of 4. Yeah.
What?
Yep.
He tells you he won't resist. Like, absolutely. No problem.
And then he has DC 15 charisma saving throw.
Oh, he fails.
Yeah.
He's a commoner. What do you want?
Victor, can we get a quick mind link between me, you, and Her Grace?
Sure.
He failed. He tried to resist it over the mind link.
Okay, but we're gonna get the truth out of him now. He's not gonna be able to lie.
Nope,
Right.
you cannot tell a lie for the next. No one with. Well, he specifically cannot tell a lie within basically a 30-foot radius in the middle of the church for the next 10 minutes.
Okay. So I'll ask him, where did you get the seed?
And his mouth opens and claps shut for a moment. And for a moment, it looks like he's not going to answer. But the eyes of all assembled are on him. People that he's lived with and worked with.
And this is why I used performance, not persuasion. I was doing it more for the crowd than for him.
Right, and it's all part of this ceremony that you're kind of just winging it for right now. Putting it together. Like, how are we going to merge court and this spell? And eventually he thinks better of it, and he averts his eyes. I took the seeds from one of the carts that came from Castle Avernus.
Mm-hmm.
And there are audible gasps among the crowd. And some murmuring back and forth as he admits his crime.
Ekon will make a large show of saying, overt thank you to Air for the guiding us in the seeking of knowledge.
What would have been a typical punishment for this kind of theft back in Fernisco?
Well, let's see. Going down the list of the tenants here.
Which limb do we cut off and or burn?
I mean,
I can't not have Scorching Ray prepared. Like, I literally can't.
Okay, we don't have to jump straight to burning alive.
No, we kind of.
No, I'm just joking.
I mean, but the church also has. We also saw that the church accepts other recompense.
Yeah, the actual tenants are very rarely invoked.
Yeah.
Basically, you have to be really important and do something like treason for them to really dig around for it. Was my read on it.
So the closest
Largely
tenants,
political.
Destruction absent necessity is a sin most grievous. A person found to have extinguished life, or despoiled land, or brought to ruin wealth or property, or any other similar thing, without need or purpose, shall have their body despoiled by the church in similar fashion to their crimes, so that their spirit be cleansed.
He has to smoke every one of those cigarettes.
This man stole from the king as well.
Mm-hmm.
He stole from the entire community, and the tobacco plants that were planted out in the fields have been burned. They're not going to grow now. The crops were destroyed by the Celtostravi. So his tobacco plants are the only ones that are going to grow in the village. So the tenants tell you that this man's body is to be despoiled in a manner befitting his crime, which in this case was theft of wealth.
Will telepathically communicate. What about instead we make him responsible for growing tobacco in the fields for everybody else, and he is not entitled to any of it? And if he fails to grow, if he purposely sabotages the fields, then we will deal with him according to air.
Well, I mean, like.
Okay, the church always says to burn them, but like if someone did this to like House Veritas back in Brennanine, what would the appropriate punishment be? We wouldn't burn them for it, I don't think.
I mean, if it was handled by the church, like what Victor suggested might not be too far off the mark. Force them into some element of labor for the church. That was very, very popular in Brennanine. But do not allow them to enjoy the fruits of that labor.
That seems.
I would place him in serfdom for a season until he's.
I mean, everybody
dead.
Here is in serfdom.
Sure.
All serfs forever. We own these people.
I think what Victor is like.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
I think Victor's got the right idea.
Okay, so have him finish showing the tobacco, but he doesn't get it.
He doesn't get to any benefit from it.
But use that tobacco to reseed the fields.
Can that be done?
And then for the next season, he has to grow tobacco and again give it to everyone else, and then we're done.
Yeah, next season he'll have appropriate seeds to do a larger crop.
Yeah.
Yep.
But he doesn't get any of that, or maybe he gets just the same share as anyone else in the town. You can prove that you are benevolent overlord.
Don't give him next season. Season after the next, he can start partaking. But for the next season, he gets none of it. And because he wanted to buy the house with those ill-begotten gains, he's only entitled to have the smallest house possible.
No.
Hang on. Okay, so this guy stole from Aslan, so I feel like we need to kind of make an example.
We don't have enough hands to make too many examples, so you just gotta. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying we have like maybe like 50 people in the village, if that. And half of them are like our party.
I know you want to stab people, Evie, but trust me, my suggestion is the best approach.
Okay, so what? To be clear, what your suggestion is that tobacco belongs to us and it will be used to resupply us with tobacco, and he does not get it.
Yeah, this Victor's suggestion is that using tobacco he is successfully growing, we will use that to restock the fields that were burned down. And once those fields have grown, he is not entitled to any of at least the first harvest.
Basically,
he has to grow it.
He's responsible for making sure it grows. And if he sabotages it or tries to slack off and is not successful, then he will face further punishment, in which you can make whatever example you want to.
Right. Basically, he's responsible for it. He's got to take care of it like he was going to do. And he gets no benefit from it.